Hello, welcome to another episode of Parallel Disney. Since my channel kind of takes a closer look at things, I thought it'd be fun to take a closer look at a Light Saber that can be purchased at Savi's workshop at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. To remove the base, handles, switch, and emitter is rather simple, so it doesn't really need to be further explained. To remove the battery and speaker module, you just push in and do a quarter turn to the left side. From this point on, do proceed with caution because you'll start to need tools and could potentially start damaging components. To reveal the batteries, you just need a small Phillips head screwdriver. To remove the top of the module with the contacting points for the rest of the lightsaber, you just need to remove 3 screws. Inside there are 4 wires, 2 red and 2 black. There's also a yellow component that I believe may be a capacitor. Presumably 2 wires go to power the rest of the lightsaber and the other 2 go for the speaker that is at the bottom. The circuit board at the top just seems to be a termination point for the wires, leading to the contact points for some pins. To further open the lightsaber, we need a hex key driver. After removing the silver sheath, we now see a black cylinder and some wires as well as a ribbon cable. Instead of removing these screws right now like me, you should actually probably remove the black ring on the bottom first. It's a little tricky and requires some squeezing and finagling. The next 2 screws are fixed in place, so you need to loosen them evenly, otherwise you'll damage the plastic. With the 2 halves open, the top area is very loose and has a couple of thin copper wires that can easily be damaged, so be careful. On the bottom there are spring-loaded contact points for the battery module. Above that are some wires that are distributing signal and power to the motherboard. On the motherboard we see an integrated circuit, which I would assume holds all the information regarding to all the possible lightsaber colors as well as sounds. The circuit board at the top has a ribbon cable that goes to the motherboard. It also contains a switch that is activated by a magnet, as well as a LED that illuminates the crystal when it gets placed in its dock. Above this we find a copper coil which can create a magnetic field that can power the kyber crystal through induction currents. This is the same technology in the wireless chargers for cell phones. To see inside the kyber crystal, we need some specialized tools. The outer translucent shell contains an inner opaque one. After opening the inner shell, the RFID device is exposed. Due to the exposed wiring, I recommend putting together the lower half of the saber before moving on to the upper. Removing the upper cylinder starts off fairly similar to the lower one, including the removal of the hex screws as well as that stubborn plastic piece. With the upper portion unscrewed, you no longer have a good solid grip to pull with since it's just dangling by wires at this point, so I recommend using the blade to push it through. The black cylinder on this upper piece was much more difficult than the one on the lower. In the end, I screwed it back in place, but without the silver sheath to give me a better grip. At the base of the cylinder, there's a clear plastic piece. There's some textured areas that help diffuse the light from some LEDs. Luckily, it can just slide out of the way. When loosening this one screw, be sure to use caution because this plunger is spring-loaded. After the screw is removed, you have access to the internal components. The ribbon cable terminates at a circuit board, while the black and red wires seem to bypass it and go right to the blade. The circuit board has a white wire that is emanating from it, leading to the blade. When a kyber crystal is entered into the lightsaber, the spring-loaded plunger presses down on a switch, activating some of the light-sense sounds. While holding the switch down, you can switch between kyber crystals and it will actually read the different colors, and this seems to indicate that the radio receiver is in the lower half. At the top there are 3 spring-loaded pins that connect to the blade of the lightsaber. On the base of the blade, you can see the metal contact points for the pins. The metal tabs on the side are just for guiding the blade into place and holding it secure. After removing 3 screws and breaking a supposed tamper seal, we can open up the blade. Here you can see the blade's outer shell has 2 layers, a clear one and a white opaque one. Inside the blade there's a foam light diffuser that kinda has the consistency of a pool noodle. Housed inside the diffuser is a string of LED lights on a very thin circuit board. When taking a closer look at the components of the blade, we see those 3 wires terminating onto another motherboard. Thanks to the labeling, we could actually see where the blue, green, and red diodes get their power from. On the backside, we see a couple more components and a possible serial number. When turning on the blade, you can see that it lights up progressively in 4 sections. Each section has 14 LEDs. You could see the separation of these sections right on the circuit board. With the multimeter, I was able to identify which pins are what color and which one's the common. With this information, or just by messing around, you can create shorts amongst the pins to create different colors. You could probably come up with some fun mods if you really wanted to. Maybe even do a multicolored blade. Ooh, turquoise, me likey. Well, that's all I got for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this teardown of a lightsaber from Savi's workshop. If you made it this far in the video, please hit that like button. If you're new to my channel, please check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and until next time.